It's Monday and time for the Back to Business podcast, featuring Calgary's industry leaders. Welcome today's show host, Kim Hayden.
Imagine this. Imagine a world, a city, a community where every young person, yes, I'm talking about young people up to 25, 26, 23, but they all knew where to go, where no doors were closed. Every opportunity was there to help them. Katherine Hay is with Kickstand, and that is their goal, is to put a kickstand on every corner. So be sure to stay tuned because you can be part of this community. But first, our land acknowledgement. We here at the Calgary Petroleum Club, in a spirit of reconciliation, honor and acknowledge that the land on which we learn, work, and live is Treaty 7 region of southern Alberta. This place is a traditional homeland for the First Nations and Métis peoples, and today we all are part of this treaty land. Alrighty, Katherine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So this is your first podcast, so I'm going to take it easy on you.
Excellent.
Probably far easier than the task you've decided to undertake.
Yes.
I want to dive right into Kickstand and why. So give me a little bit of background on how you started Kickstand, and why does this resonate with you?
All right. Well, Kickstand is Alberta's Integrated Youth Services Initiative. So it is designed to improve access to mental health and well-being services for young people who are 11 to 25 years old. Really, this is a group of young people who have poor access to services. It's difficult to find the help that you need, difficult to navigate to the right type of service. And there's barriers to accessing services. Either they're not available in your area, or maybe you don't qualify for the program, or there's a cost, or you have to drive, like all sorts of different things. And so what we end up with is a lot of young people who are not connected to services until they've been struggling for a long time. And so it's really important, I think, if we want to invest in the health and well-being of our communities, to listen to our young people, to try to remove as many barriers as possible and get them the help they need as quickly as they can.
And why did you start this initiative? So what is your personal background, like your education? How did you get to this point? And what did you see that you said, wait a minute?
Yes, I trained as an occupational therapist, and I worked in the addiction and mental health field for a number of decades. And I worked primarily with adults, and so I was constantly amazed that we were seeing people in our community who were disconnected from employment and disconnected from their families, and they were alone. They were experiencing financial hardships and kind of marginalization, like they were removed a little bit from society, all because they had a mental health problem. And I was just struck by the fact that there had to be a better way to support people in this journey by avoiding this extreme situation that ends up where someone is really disconnected from the world around them. I was a frontline provider, both at a mental health hospital as well as in the community. And just was able to be involved in a pan-Canadian research project that kind of seeded the idea of integrated youth services all across all the different provinces and territories, and seeing the difference it made for a young person who was 17, 18 years old to walk into a youth-friendly space and to be able to say, like, really, this is like, I can come here and I can see somebody today. And yeah, just to see the difference that it made for them and how much like unnecessary negative consequences that we could avoid was really the driving force. So I was really happy to be provided the opportunity to move over to the Kickstand organization as the executive director. So
you've mentioned mental health, and I think mental health can be almost a catch-all phrase. We've got nature, nurture, generational. When we're looking at these young people, I mean, what could we as a community and society beyond Kickstand, right? So we have Kickstand. Why do we have this? Is it, I mean, people will say, oh, social media or, oh, this, right? But, why is there this prevalence that is now even leading into greater issues like the loneliness epidemic and the drug epidemic, or, like, what is it a balance between the nature, nurture? Is it, you mentioned employment. Well, I know I'm watching my daughter look for a job. Mm-hmm. I can't help her in a lot of that stuff because it's all online now. The language that's being asked just to fill out a form can be challenging. And then when we're looking at online and forms, we also have all of that barrier for so many people who maybe don't have any guidance. Let's go through that, unpack that a little bit, so we can maybe give a bit more weight to the term mental health, maybe a little bit more kindness or compassion. Mm-hmm. Can we take a closer look at who we're serving?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's such a complex situation or context that our young people are navigating today. And you've mentioned a lot of things that I think are really valid. And you hear people say, oh, they just have to toughen up and they're just lazy, or they're not very motivated. And in my day, we did X, Y, and Z. And I really think it's important to take the time to listen to the experiences of our young people, because the world that they live in is very, very different than the one that the adult generation or the parents like us that lived in. And so without spending that time to truly understand what their experience is like, I think we miss sometimes and gloss over, like, oh, just put your phone down. Like, that's all it is. If you would just go for a walk, or if you would get off Instagram or stop watching TikTok and just try a little harder, then things would be fine. But I don't think that it's that simple. I think that it's really complicated. I think it's been compounded through COVID, through social media, but also through our world, like geopolitical system, the financial situation that our young people find themselves in, looking at the future. Can I afford a house, like, ever? And so, it's a very different type of future that they're looking at. So I think it is important to be compassionate and try to understand that this catch-all phrase is really speaking to that holistic health and well-being and the hope for the future, and being able to visualize what their life might look like. I think there's a bit of a void sometimes for them. Like, they don't really know how they're going to make it. There's lots of literature say that this generation might be the first set of young people who's not as well off as their parents. And that's, I think, just difficult for them to wrap their mind around, is what does that actually look like? So I think it's really important to, like you said, just be really compassionate and take the time to understand what their reality is. So
I love that you mentioned, in my day, in my generation. And that leads me to the next question of 25. So when people think youth, they're thinking of 11 to 18. They're thinking 5 to 16. Tell us about what's going on up to 25, because I know there's been a lot of studies that actually were really, I could have probably written those studies just by watching my boys and my daughter, right?
Exactly.
But let's talk about why 25 and in all reality could be even upwards of 27 that people need this support.
Yeah. Well, I think our service systems are really designed on a kind of an old model where we look at young people or youth as being 0 to 18 years old. and then adults being 18 and over. And I think we have a lot of weaknesses in our service systems at the age of 18, which coincides with some of the most destabilizing normal developmental milestones. So you're going to finish school, and all of a sudden you don't have that structure. You don't have those adults in your life that maybe were a huge part of keeping you well for the last 12 years. So there's some, you might move to go to post-secondary. You're looking at your early career choices and your entry-level positions. You're, maybe exploring new relationships that are more intimate relationships or partner relationships as opposed to family relationships. And there's, that work of individuating from your family so that you become your own person and young, flourishing adult. And so the weakness in the system kind of coincides with a lot of developmental milestones that also lead to instability and lead to the emergence of potentially mental health symptoms, mental illness, substance use issues, loneliness, disconnection from your primary providers, all those kind of things. And so it's really important to provide continuous service over the age of 18 so that young people really go, hey, I can continue to receive the support that I had that was keeping me well and keeping me moving forward instead of pulling that out right at the same time. So yeah, I think it's one of the key principles of integrated youth services is to make sure that you're continuously providing that service even when someone turns 18 years old, and continue to foster that relationship with their natural supports as that changes a little bit. So as a mother, that there's a period of time where it's a little bit tense and it can be tough.
I'm of the old European mindset of generational homes and just, that's me. But I see my children with some of their friends that their friends have been literally in some ways abandoned by a parent or a caregiver because, and it's fascinating because as a over 50-year-old woman, I know that we as adults, we are still human beings, and we know what the divorce rates are, we know what the move rates are, we know what the life transition rates are, and so as this child is going through, so too is the parent. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe sometimes there is an exhaustion, right? So, and especially when you're working to navigate and fight on behalf of your child's elementary education. Even just, my daughter is dyslexic, and just getting those services when I wasn't even familiar what services she would need, right? Yeah. So I think absolutely being a place and getting the message out. And that's why you're here today is we really want to get this message out that Calgary has historically always been the youngest city per capita, yet we're a boom and bust city. So we have some fragility to our economy here that I see just walking outside on the streets. I see a young person who's on drugs, folded over, and everybody's just stepping over them, just walking past them. So, it's like, how do we address all these issues as humanely as possible? And programs like Kickstand are one of the solutions, that interface space. Let's talk about co-creation. So co-creation with young people. How does this, you mentioned somebody comes into the space and they, wait, I can come here? This is a space for me. And that really, that's not a 50-year-old professional from a HGTV design eye perspective. That is literally in the co-creation space. So walk us through how you get the youth to really engage, especially if they've struggled in the world. Like I said, mom is disconnected because mom is in survival mode. All these things are going on. and it's a multi-layered challenge. How do you get them to trust you and become a co-creative with Kickstand?
Yeah. It's a huge part of the way that we do implementation is to make sure that we're listening to our young people. And it's probably not much different than like corporate advertising, because what we're trying to do is to create a product for a certain audience. So it seems very logical to make sure that the audience is involved in developing that product and giving feedback and saying what works and what doesn't work. So we work really closely with youth advisors in a wide range of capacities. And so we have a provincial youth advisory council, and we're always looking for, not always, but we do recruit young people to that council. And then we have local youth advisory councils in each one of the communities across Alberta that has a Kickstand center. So we really pride ourselves on ensuring that young people have true influence in the way that the Kickstand centers are designed, what it looks and feels like when you walk into the center, what kind of questions you get asked, how we determine success or not. If this is a successful visit for them, what does that mean to a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old? So really making sure that their influence is implemented throughout the planning and the operations and also the evaluation of the actual centers across the province. So it is difficult sometimes to get all the different perspectives, but we just really try to get a wide range and diverse set of young people who have friends and they ask their friends and just make sure that we open the door and give them the opportunity consistently to contribute. And it is quite remarkable. Probably one of my favorite parts of my job is to be able to work with young people. They are creative and innovative, and they are amazing advocates, and they are very interested in helping their peers and other young people. They're happy to give back. We do compensate our advisors to make sure that they know that we really do value their expertise at being young, that some of us have passed through that stage. So we need their help.
I don't think there's enough money out there to pay me to go back to my 20s. Because those are hard, those are hard years because there's so much shift. You get to the end of your 20s and, I should be further ahead. You're at the start of your 20s. What do I want to do? There's so much that goes on in there that it's really, you don't get into the groove of being an adult, I think, until you're in your 30s. I love this youth advisory board. Here at the Petroleum Club, one of the things that we do at CPC is we really do focus on our young professionals. So there's ways for them to engage in the club and that are very cost effective. There's continuing education and learning opportunities that are totally free or designed to support them in their growth. When we look at a youth advisory, how does this help them in just moving forward, building a resume or learning kind of scope of work or navigating different personalities? I just find this fascinating that you're creating a space that feels almost like a stepping stone into that new life.
Yes, and it is remarkable to watch young people tentatively reach out to maybe apply for a position on the Youth Advisory Council, participate in some different activities, and then start to really gain a voice. And I think we really find that you need to follow through. Like if you say that they are going to be co-creating something, we hold ourselves accountable to ensuring that they can see where their input and their decision-making has then been implemented. But to watch them over like a 12 to 18 month period, it's pretty remarkable. We've had, I feel like, always very proud, but yeah, sometimes you have someone who comes in and has had, significant experiences with anxiety, really struggled through junior high and high school, and is in their undergrad or something like that at university, and then they call you and ask you for a letter of recommendation to medical school because they really want to change what happens to other young people when they ask for help with their mental health because of the experiences that they had. And you see this growth and development, and I think sometimes just giving them a voice is like it's magic. It's like the secret sauce, and they just flourish. And so, yeah, it's very cool. It's my very favorite part.
Well, let's, without mentioning any names, could you share a story with us so that we can put this in a direct context?
Of a young person.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for sure. Now, which one should I share?
That's always a good sign.
No, there's so many. Okay, I'm thinking of a young woman who came to the Youth Advisory Council and was very difficult to engage, came out of the children's services. So she had been in foster home and group care. And so she was tentative and quiet, wasn't super reliable in terms of coming to like all the scheduled engagement sessions, but did show up kind of most of the time. And I think it's been about almost 2 years now, but she had returned to school and finished upgrading her grade 12 so that she could apply to go to do her degree in social work. And she has just started her master's in social work. And she is one of our most articulate speakers about the need for integrated youth services and how if she had had access to services in such an easy way when she was younger, that she feels that she would have avoided significant issues with substance use, significant ongoing suicidal ideation or thoughts that she had, and just feels like she just is the biggest advocate for implementing easily accessible services in an equitable way all across Alberta, and just really believes that it has the ability to change lives. So it's so neat. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You mentioned foster homes. I recently was going down a rabbit hole talking. Somebody had mentioned something about our youth on homelessness. And I'm going, well, where are all these young people coming from? And then I found out that in Canada, statistically, it's like 60,000 youth every night are in a foster home. So then where is their infrastructure? When you look at Kickstand, where do you see Kickstand in 5 years? Where, if you could design the future, take away all the uncertainties out there. We've got a very uncertain world that our kids are right now watching every day. Are we going to be, is there an invasion coming? Is there a war coming? Is there a famine coming? Will I have food tomorrow? All of that's on social media. Mm-hmm. We can remove that, and we can just say, okay, I'm going to close my eyes and we're going to design what this is going to look like in 5 years. What do you hope that year 5 holds for Kickstand?
Mm-hmm. So exciting. I think really what we'd like to do is create enough physical Kickstand centers across the province that a young person or their family could just say, hey, why don't we just go to Kickstand? And they could go in there, and within that center, there would be a commitment of our community providers. We have amazing service providers in multiple different systems, as well as in our not-for-profit organizations, in our charities, who really want to do the best by our young people. But to be able to go into a Kickstand center and have all those people working together in an integrated way. So having the expertise of mental health providers, but also maybe employment specialists or someone to support with education and homework, maybe someone to help the family understand how to communicate better. But just to be able to walk into a center and say, I think I need this, and to be able to hear that, you're in the right place. That would be my vision in 5 years. I hope that there's like 30 different centers across Alberta. So we have 8 right now. We're going to be expanding, and I hope that continues to gain traction and that we continue to create easily accessible spaces for our young people. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. What can organizations like the Calgary Petroleum Club, other business clubs, so we know that business clubs, we tend to attract people who have gone through university, and even our young professionals group. What could clubs that are creating community around economy do to support not only Kickstand as an organization, but also the graduates of Kickstand, these young women who are going on to get their master's degree? How can we as a community of professionals lean in and support?
Well, first of all, I think everybody knows a young person. So awareness and being aware of the development of the Integrated Youth Service Network, the development of Kickstand, the access points that do exist, and really making sure that we say to people, go to the website, see if there's anything there that you can start with. If there's a center close to you, walk in and see what it's like. So the awareness and ensuring that everybody knows that that's where you can go to start to get the help that you need, I think is probably the biggest thing. And then I think this is really a collective impact system transformation project. So this is really about people taking responsibility for their community, for the young people in their community, as well as the other people in their community. But I think we've gotten away from taking care of each other. And sometimes it can be a nice word instead of stepping over somebody. Like, can we say, how are you doing today? Is there anything I can do for you? Is there a way that we can pay more attention to each other and function as communities where we're supportive of each other, where we use our skills to help others? That might be volunteering in a Kickstand center more formally, but realistically, I think it's really just about getting back to that idea that it takes a village to raise a child, and just trying to pull together and create that kind and compassionate and caring community that people live in. I think that's going to make everybody healthier, and the more healthy everybody is, I think just the better off we'll be as a total community and society.
You've given us a lot to think about. This is amazing, and I was so happy to learn about Kickstand and what you're doing, because I was really encouraged seeing that up to 25 and seeing that support infrastructure. Katherine, I can't thank you for all of the sleepless nights you've put in and some of the heartbreak that you've endured, and all of the rejoicing, like sharing the story of this young woman that is really she is making impact. She is making waves. Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
As I've said over and over again, our youth is our future. We can go out and buy stocks and bonds. We can acquire things and gather things up to us. But at the end of the day, when we're facing a thing like what we're calling this silver tsunami over the next 20 years, we're going to need young women like this woman that came to Kickstand and learned how to engage and has gone into her master's so she herself can pick up the gauntlet as one of our greatest resources, and that's the human resource. Thanks for joining us today. You're going to find all of Katherine and Kickstand's information in our show notes. Until next time, you know what? Community starts right here, right now. You're part of that. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for joining us today on the Back to Business podcast. Be sure to visit calpeteclub.com calpeteclub.com to find out more about upcoming events, networking opportunities, and membership. If you are not already a valued member at the CPC, where we are proudly connecting and supporting Calgary's business leaders.